Hello everyone. I hope everyone is doing well. This is Dr. Mirva. I am your mentor for this meta-analysis. So in our previous lecture, we discussed the basics, and then after that, I think we discussed about the databases, and then we learned about making the search strings. So I think you guys did your task as well. So you made the search string with every the entry term that are basically available. So it would have eventually come down to something looking like this. So this was the search string made with the PubMed, right? And then this was of the Scopus. Some of you didn't had access to it. So that's for the Scopus, and then this is for the Web of Science, and then this is for the Embase, right? Now I had a discussion with your other mentor. He didn't add the Cochrane one, which we need to figure it out yet. But I think so. He hasn't included the Cochrane yet. So we have to work with the search string for now. So what happens basically is that when you put these search strings, for example this one, and I copy and paste it here and run this search, it is going to give me 147 results, right? And here are the 147 results I have kind of written here. And then this gonna be the same for the Scopus, then it's gonna be the same for the Web of Science, and it's gonna be the same for the Embase, right? And then what you do is basically you save and then you transport it in the form of an RIS file, or in our case it is basically within PIMID file. So it is basically gonna take out all the 147 results from this page, and it's going to create a file for you, which we are going to basically transport it into the Rayyan later. But that's for the later, right? So this is basically subsequent steps that we basically do. um what basically actually follows. But before we dive into that, there was one thing that we did. So we couldn't conduct our lecture on Sunday because of the political situation. I hope everyone is doing safe. So there was one thing that we did was register our topic in the Prospero, right? Now we're going to talk about what is Prospero, how is the registration looks like. So if anybody is assigned this task in the future, so you guys are able to do that as well, right? Now there wasn't much that the I think Gabriel was the one who registered the topic, because I already gave him a filled one, but then I'm gonna show you how we basically fill it, right? So what is a Prospero? Prospero is International Prospective Register of Systematic Reviews. This is an international database where you register your topic or your systematic review protocols. So what can you register on Prospero is you can register systematic reviews, yes. You can register systematic reviews and meta-analysis, yes, but you cannot register meta-analysis alone in the Prospero. All right. So as you can see that this is basically a protocol that we do for systematic review. Um, so here you basically, if I put it in simple terms, here you basically put your whole plan in front of in this database, right? So before you run the analysis and before you find out any results about your topic. So this is basically we're gonna talk about why we do the Prospero registrations. What are the reasons? So the what is the purpose of Prospero registration? Like why we need to register our topic or register like what we are going to do at a database. First of all is to ensure the transparency, right? So you basically document your protocol before you know the results, right? In our case, let's suppose, let's put aside the abstract that we have, that has been accepted. Congratulations on that as well. But you guys, if it wasn't for the abstract, you guys didn't know what the results are going to be look like, right? So it is basically to ensure the transparency, so it prevents changing outcomes or methods based on findings. This reduce the selective reporting bias, right? So if you already know the outcomes and then you go back and then kind of run the analysis, so your mind will eventually be biased towards, oh, I know the outcome was going to look something like this, So you can, there is a high possibility you can change the method. So that's why you have to ensure transparency. Before you find out the results, you have to register your protocol in the Prospero. Second thing, which is very important, which is I think the main reason we kind of register a topic, is to prevent the duplication. Because nowadays research topics, they are vanishing in the air, right? So even if we when I remember exact, like when the Gabriel was he was illustrating the protocol. He told me that he found almost 3 to 4 similar topics to ours, right? But the good thing was, we had like modified the analysis part a little, and then we were able to get it registered. Because that's how you can make the minor changes in them, but you can kind of understand that why the registration is important, because someone might have already registered it. And if someone has already registered the same protocol as yours, it means that you know um if you have registered it later, there's a high possibility yours gonna be rejected, because of course there can't be two similar articles in the on the databases. So that's why researchers can check whether a similar review is already ongoing. So if something is already ongoing, of course that basically shows you that you don't have to waste any time on it, and you just have to move on to another topic, or maybe modify your topic like we did in your case, right? It's going to save your time, it's going to save your effort and resources. And to improve the scientific credibility, shows that the methodology was pre-planned, right? So again, this is the same point as, like, as here, like, once you know the outcomes, there's very high possibility there's going to be a bias in your methodology. So you have already prepared your methodology before any results, and it is increase the trust in your results. And many journals, they prefer prosper registration. So when you guys will be writing your methodology, you will mention your prosper registration number if it get registered by them. All right. And to strengthen the publication and academic value, so if you have if you have already a prosper registration, it means that your topic hasn't been taken by anyone else, and you are the first one to have created something that is basically different, and then this basically increase the value of your paper. So it's going to be very easy to get it published if you get the Prosper registration number. So that's about the Prosper registration, and how the Prosper registration basically looks like. So you're gonna basically go to the Prospero, you're gonna write on the Google, and it's gonna give you a kind of this um form, something that basically looks like this. Now what is this form is, basically you are gonna write every tiny detail about your topic, about how you are going to carry out your search, and how you plan to carry out your meta-analysis or systematic review, right? So if we start from section 1, you can see that when you started the lecture, when you are anticipated to complete this topic, and what what stage you guys are basically in, if you're the organization, and yours name, who's going to be the authors, and what is the funding source, conflict of interest, the language and the country. Second one is your review questions, right? So you have to write your review question, because if you have done your preliminary searches, it means that you already know what research question you have. So in the primary review section, we filled out like we are talking about the minocycline, and then you have secondary review question, because we these are basically your outcomes as well. So in our case, our primary outcome is NIHSS, and our secondary outcomes are the modified ranking scale, and all cause mortality and that. Then again in section 3, this is the PCOS criteria. We have already talked about the PCOS criteria very in detail. And then again, for the intervention, you have the comparator, you have the primary outcomes, you have secondary outcomes, you have secondary outcomes 2, and then you have secondary outcomes 3. So in our case, we have the prime study outcomes number 1. These are NIHSS and MRS, right? Secondary one are the mortality, and the secondary outcome 3 are the safety measures. Because the mortality and safety measures, they are, you can kind of say, similar to almost every meta-analysis, but they are mainly differentiated from the primary outcomes and secondary outcomes number 1, right? So we analyze the mortality and safety almost in every meta-analysis, but the main differentiation comes in the primary and secondary outcomes. And then you tell them their study design. You are going to only include the RCTs, right? You are going to include the exclude the observational, and then you justify it as well. So we're going to talk about in detail, because today we are going to talk about inclusion and exclusion criteria as well. Then you have your information sources, like where we run our searches. So in our case, it was, Medline, Embase, and Scopus and Web of Science. Your other mentor has kind of tried to include, the most of them. Then you have search data range, and then you have language. If there was any language restriction, then you put your search strategy here. Then you have the study selection process, right? We are going to be using Rayyan, then we will be using Prisma as well. Then you have the data extraction form, and then you will be doing the data extraction in Microsoft Excel, and then you are gonna do the risk of bias with the help of Cochrane, right? Sorry, no, yes, Cochrane risk of bias, and then you have the analysis. For the analysis, you are going to be using the R version, right? And that's how this, you can see that this is basically you filling out everything regarding your protocol. And you can see that we haven't talked about the results here. They have talked about like your PICOs, your primary, secondary outcomes, and everything. If there's any bias, or how you're gonna, identify your heterogeneity. But they haven't talked about the results. So this is everything you registering, you telling the database before finding out your results. All right, on this basis. So these are just basically some random dates. You can see that. So on this basis, they are gonna gonna give you they're gonna assign you a number, registration number. So it means that your topic, this our topic, is gonna be registered on the Prospero, and then it's gonna be eventually make your publication very easy for you. All right. So this was about the Prospero registration. I hope everyone gets it. Okay. Now moving forward, so now we will be extensively working on the methodology. From moving forward for up to our three lectures, we will be just only talking about the methodology. So the methodology will include running the defining the PICOs, which we already did in our previous lecture. And our PICOs was basically in the population, the people having acute ischemic stroke. For the intervention, we had minocycline. For the comparator, we have the placebo. I didn't define outcomes at that point, but now we have our outcomes, right? And then for the study designs, we have ran not the clinical trials. We are going to talk about the RCTs. So we are strictly adhering to the RCTs, right? Randomized control trials in our case. So we already did the PICOs, right? Today we are gonna discuss inclusion and exclusion criteria, on what basis you will be including the articles in the Rayyan and what basis you will be excluding the articles. And then we have already done the search strategy. In the next lecture, we will be doing the data extraction, and after the analysis, you will be doing the quality assessment. So they're going to be basically methodology is the part where most of the things are basically going on, right? So we did this in our previous lecture, and today we are going to talk about the inclusion and exclusion criteria. Now, what is an inclusion and exclusion criteria is whenever you move into the screening, right? So you develop, a strict inclusion and exclusion criteria, that okay, if an article involves these following things, I am gonna include it in my analysis. But if it doesn't, so it's gonna be discarded, right? So there are certain set of rules, you can say, that you basically form. So this was a PCOS. Now this is our inclusion and exclusion criteria. It's gonna be very easy, right? So I have, you know, kind of defined them on the basis of PCOS as well. So for the inclusion criteria, you can see that you are going to select those articles on the Rayan, like your inclusion criteria, who will have discussed adults, right? Diagnosed with acute ischemic stroke, either confirmed clinically or radiologically, it doesn't really matter, but they should have acute ischemic stroke, right? What you're gonna exclude is you cannot include any article that discuss hemorrhagic stroke, transient ischemic attack, pediatric population, animal studies, or in vitro studies, right? So this is our first, inclusion criteria, that the 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 paper should discuss acute ischemic stroke. the second inclusion criteria is our intervention. The paper should discuss minocycline in it. So if they discuss acute ischemic stroke, they discuss minocycline, you are gonna go for that paper. But regardless of any dose, regardless of any route, or regardless of any duration. Okay. So, uh, this is our inclusion criteria for intervention. What you are going to exclude is studies that are not involving minocycline, or where minocycline is not clearly separable from other interventions, right? So, I mean, this is like easy. Like you just have to look for the papers who discuss acute ischemic stroke and minocycline, right? What is a comparator in our case? The comparator is placebo, right? So let's suppose if the paper doesn't discuss any comparator group, you're gonna exclude it, or maybe they have, done it with a different thing. Now the now here is the important thing, which is basically the outcome. So in our case, what are the outcomes we are basically looking at? So our primary outcome is NIH stroke scale, which is NIHSS. This is our primary outcome. Secondary outcome is modified Rankin scale, MRS, Barthel Index BI, recurrent stroke, mortality, adverse events, and the myocardial infarction. Now, on this basis, you are gonna be, including your articles that either they could, kind of include any of the outcomes in them. So you have to, so if they discuss any of the outcomes in them, you have to include that. All right. And then again, of course, if the studies don't report these outcomes, they will be excluded, right? Now, um, sorry for this. So for study designs, you are going to strictly adhere to RCTs, right? So you have to strictly adhere to RCTs. I'm going to emphasize on it because we have done our search, we have already, seen it. So you have to strictly adhere to RCTs. Now this is, no, not, I'm not saying this because we have run our search, so you have to include RCTs. This is the standard protocol that is followed everywhere. So most of the, if you want to enhance the value of your meta-analysis, you have to include only the randomized controlled trials in them, right? So what you're gonna exclude is, you're gonna exclude all the case report, case series, reviews, editorials, confidence abstract, and meta-analysis, systematic review. So these all are gonna be excluded while you are doing the screening. You just have to include the randomized controlled trials who are discussing these outcomes, who are discussing minocycline, and who are discussing acute ischemic stroke as well, right? Then for the language, you have to strictly adhere to all the articles published in English. Let's suppose you find an abstract, it is in English, but when you open the full text, it's not in it's not in English, right? So what you have to do, you have to discard it. So you have to include all the articles who are in English, right? Non-English articles, they won't be accepted. And then publication type will be, of course, you need the full text screening once you reach the secondary screening. All right. So this is going to be our inclusion criteria. If I just, instead of these lines, if I just simplified for you, very simplified for you, your inclusion criteria is RCTs, randomized controlled trials, discussing minocycline for acute ischemic stroke without any restriction of dose, route of minocycline. Just and just this, right? And your exclusion criteria is, you have to exclude all the observational studies, which include cross-sectional, which include, I don't know why I'm not able to edit this one. Okay, so for the observational studies, you have the cross-sectional as well as a cohorts and case series as well. You have to exclude the case report, case series, review articles, editorials, pilot studies, protocols, and as well as systematic reviews and meta-analysis. Okay. So these are, you're gonna exclude all these papers, and then you are gonna include RCTs. And this is just simply your inclusion criteria, and we can just add language English as well. So which is also very important. Okay. Okay. So that is going to be your inclusion criteria. And now it's up to you if you want to stick by this, or you just copy paste the outcomes in here. And this is your inclusion and exclusion criteria, which is like gonna be very basic one. Now till now, if anybody has any question, you can just unmute yourself, then we can move ahead. Okay. So, all right. So now we are gonna move towards the screening part. So what is basically screening? So this was your inclusion and exclusion criteria. I hope everyone knows. Now I'm gonna send these slides in the group as well, right? So while you are doing the screening, you can just open it in front of you and then kind of. But it's gonna be the screening is gonna be very easy for you. Screening is always very easy because when you exclude these articles from your screening, right? So you are hardly left with any studies. So it becomes very easy for you. So the rest of them they get selected when you are doing the secondary screening or the full screening, right? Now I am constantly talking about screening. So what is actually basically screening, right? The screening is the process of selecting relevant studies from the search results or selecting those articles which are according to your inclusion criteria, right? Ensure only studies meeting the inclusion criteria are included in the review, right? And this is done in two stages. You have the primary screening and then you have the secondary screening, right? Now, yes, but now the question arises how you are going to do the screening, right? Or like, are you going to just randomly go to PubMed and start reading the articles? No, you have certain these websites that are basically web tools that are made for you, which becomes the screening very easy for you, right? So in your case we will be using the Rayyan, right? Rayyan is a free web-based tool. It has the blind screening, it has the tags and labels, it has the reason, exclusion, collaboration, and conflict resolution and export. Just know that we are using Rayyan, and we are going to go to Rayyan in a minute, and I'm going to explain everything in detail there. All right, now let's just talk about the primary screening and secondary screening. So the primary screening is basically your title and abstract screening, right? So this is just you reviewing initially on the basis of the titles and abstract. So most of the time the title will have, talked about the acute ischemic stroke, and then you are gonna read the abstract, and then maybe they have mentioned about NIHSS or MRS, which are our outcomes, or maybe they have talked about the minocycline, right? So that means that article is gonna be included, right? So this is you doing the screening very superficially just on the basis of titles and abstract, right? What is the purpose? It's to quickly exclude the clearly irrelevant studies and reduce the number of studies for full text review. So what you are basically doing, you are comparing the title and abstract against the inclusion and exclusion criteria, as I just mentioned, right? This is done by two independent reviewers ideally, but of course it's not going to be your case. So everybody will be doing the primary screening. The articles will be divided among you, and then disagreements are resolved by a third reviewer, and this third reviewer is going to be your mentor, the other mentor in this case, right? So everybody, for example, let's just say two people will be assigned 200 articles, so those two will be responsible for those 200 articles, right? And then they will do the screening, and let's suppose if those two have any conflict on any article, so the third one, your mentor, is gonna jump in and kind of you know resolve it for you, or maybe you two can basically do brainstorming again on the same article as well, like if it is according to your inclusion exclusion criteria, right? And then after you do the primary screening, you are hardly left with any articles. For example, if if you had initially 30, you are left with maybe 10 articles or 11 articles, and then when you do secondary screening you are hardly left with like 4 articles or 5 articles. That's how basically works, right? And why does it happen? Because of the outcomes that we have basically defined. So not every paper will have defined the outcomes, not every paper will have talk about the minocycline, not every paper will have talk about acute ischemic stroke, so they will get excluded very easily, right? Then secondary screening is going to be your detailed review of the full text articles. Here you will be individually downloading every paper, the full text, and then going through the whole paper, and then you will see like what outcomes they have defined for you. What is the purpose? It basically confirms that the studies fully meet the inclusion criteria, right? And this exclude the studies that appear relevant in the primary screening, but they fail the criteria. All right, so a lot of the studies they get excluded out in secondary articles as well. Now, what you basically check, you check your population, intervention, comparator outcome. Again, the thing that we discussed previously, and then when the final list that you have after the secondary screening, it means this is a final list that you are gonna be that you will be running the analysis on, and then that you will be doing the you will be doing the your screening and everything on. All right, so before we jump in here, let's just move to Rayan that we just discussed. So how Rayan basically looks like. So I think every one of you have made the Rayan, right? Rayan ID, and then you have sent me your email as well. So we are gonna include your Rayan, right? So what we do on Rayan is basically, I hope it don't log me out again. So yeah. So you're gonna click on here and remember the 147 articles that we retrieved from the PubMed, and we created a file, right, in the form of a PMID. You're gonna be exporting it just here. So what we do is you're gonna click on here, and I am just creating a very superficial, because this is not the actual one. The actual one is the one which we are gonna include you later through your emails. So I'm gonna just add acute ischemic stroke. This is our literature review, and this is the biomedical domain. So I'm going to click on create new review, and now I am going to select the files, right? So remember the RIS file that we just exported in our previous lecture. This is the same one, and this is going to export all the articles for you. So right, this is a demo, right? Because this is not the actual one. The actual one is the one we are gonna be including um through this invitation. So once we have once you have uploaded the articles, right, you can see you can just click on you can see your review article title is here, the biomedical review and everything. And how many articles you have imported? You have almost 34 articles that were present in that file, the demo file that I just extracted. So I'm gonna click on this review data, right? So when I click on this review data, it shows me that there are 34 articles that we just uploaded, and these are all of them. But this is the screening, you can see here. Before we jump into the screening, there is a possibility that it has the PubMed or the file has duplicates. It means that it has extracted two articles, the same two articles, which happens, like you can say, almost every time. The first thing that you are going to do is you are going to detect the duplicates, right? So I'm going to click on detect the duplicates. I'm going to click on proceed. So now it's detecting the duplicates for me, duplicate articles for me. And then the first thing is going to be to resolve those duplicate articles. You can see that now, if you look at here, we have four unresolved duplicates. It means there are four papers which are similar to each other, and then we have to decide which one we are going to keep, right? So we have detect the duplicates. This we're going to click on the unresolved ones, right? So these are the articles that we have to resolve, and then I'm going to click on this one, this that says resolve duplicate. So I'm going to click on this. So now it has appeared in front of me. What we are basically checking, we have to check almost everything, right? So efficacy of minocycline and acute ischemic stroke, and yup, it's the same. We're gonna say the authors the red one basically says uh that it is included, but I think the authors pretty much looks the same, right? The date is the same, journal is the same, DOI is not mentioned here, so DI is mentioned here, which is gonna be this is taking the preference for now because the DOI is present here. Then search methods, you can see it is lacking the abstract. It doesn't include abstract. So of course we have to include the one that has the abstract. So what I'm gonna click on this one, keep left article. So it's resolved. Second one is the clinical research on neuroprotective effect of pinocycline. The title are the same. We haven't mentioned any authors in the authors mentioned here, but not here. Date is not here. Journal is might or might not be the same. Then again, we're lacking the abstract. So if you're lacking the abstract, you are gonna be including because the titles are gonna be the same, but it's lacking the abstract, so we're gonna keep the left one because it has the abstract. Okay, so let me just refresh it quickly. Okay, let's just see. Um, okay, yeah. So there were four of them, right? So we deleted two of the articles, and then because there were four of them, now there is no unresolved. So when it says there is no unresolved, so it means that you have resolved all the duplicates. So basically, we deleted two of them, and then we kept two of them, right? So it automatically deleted those two from your from the imported file that we just uploaded here. The first step is going to be detect the duplicates, right? Second step, after you have done these duplicates, you are going to click on the screening. So when you click on the screening is, you can see that when we imported there were 34 articles, but after removing the duplicates there are 32 articles. So it automatically excluded the 32 articles from the from this imported files. Now you are basically left with 32 articles, which are all articles, which are basically 32, right? Now, this is how the interface of Rayyan looks like. We're gonna just simply quickly talk about, on the left side, you have all the articles with their titles. So this is the title and this is their abstract, right? If you scroll down, they have the authors and then they have their links present here as well, the URI and DOI as well, right? So that's that. And if you look at the bottom, you have this tick, which means if you want to include this article, this question mark which says maybe you are not sure, this cross mark which says exclude the articles. You have to have add the reason, but in the secondary screening you might maybe label it and then just forget about this one for now. So that are these are the tools you are going to be using. So for example, let's just quickly, okay, so before I do these one, let's just talk about the keywords. So for the keywords, you can, for example, we said we just want to include the RCT, so we're going to click on that. It's going to just only show the RCTs, but it's preferable if you go with the words with the keywords for the exclusion, right? So if we come back and see here, so the primary screening will be just you including and excluding the articles, right? On the basis of the exclusion criteria that we just created. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna come here and I'm gonna, that's a keyword for exclusion. So I'm gonna add these keywords here, right? So I am gonna add, let's suppose I'm gonna, so this is the cross sectional. Why it's not letting me add? Well, that's odd. Let us see if it's already. Oh yeah, okay, it already has. So you can see they have already, has some certain keywords, but let's suppose if they don't have, and then you have certain keywords that you don't want, like you want to exclude from your articles, you can put them here with this mark, but it's not letting me. I don't know for some reasons. So you can, add them as well. But for now, let's just quickly through the one that are already present here. So we said in our exclusion criteria that animal studies are not going to be a part of it. So we're going to click on this, right? Now trials, we said yes, we are going to include it. Again, so we are not doing any animal study, so this is going to be excluded. All the review articles, sorry if I keep on coming here. So all the review articles are going to be excluded. Click on it. All the cohorts, because cohorts are a part of cross observational studies, will be excluded. All the reviews will be excluded. All the articles with rodents are going to be excluded. All the meta-analysis, because meta-analysis are the review articles as well, excluded. Observational studies excluded, and systematic review excluded as well. Now we are not gonna exclude the randomized control trials, right? And then you can also add the case reports. Click the case reports, case controls. Although they are not present here, but I'm just telling you how if there are, you have to exclude them, right? And literature review as well. So these are basically the one you mainly have to exclude. So once you do that, it says there are 16 articles who have animal reviews, cohorts, reviews, rodents, and meta-analysis in them. These are those 16 articles, right? So it means that once you apply these keywords, you have to exclude all of the 16 articles at once. Why? Because they're not according to inclusion criteria. Either they are, and they have run their um even though they have used the minocycline, even though they have used the acute ischemic stroke, but they have used animal models. We are not talking about animals, we are talking about humans here. Or either they were the review articles, either they were the cohorts, either they had done their analysis on the rodents, they were meta-analysis. Without any thought, just exclude them. Like I'm gonna do here, exclude them. So you will be excluding all these articles, right? And you are gonna apply the same exact filter when you we will be giving you the correct file, right? The one where you will be doing the screening on your own. So that's how, the primary screening becomes a lot more easier once you apply these filters, right? So I'm gonna click on this. So all 16 of them got excluded, right? And if I just click on here, you can see that we exclude 16 articles. We are left undecided with 16 articles, right? So I'm gonna click on that, and now I have to remove all the keywords selected. So now it's gonna show me the 16 articles that weren't that weren't excluded on the basis of our exclusion criteria. It means that they are according to our inclusion, somehow according to inclusion criteria. So now what you're gonna do is you are gonna check the uh, you know mm, check their names and check their abstract individually. So for example, if you're left with 16, what you're gonna do is you are gonna check the title first. So it talks about minocycline. Yes, treatment of autoimmune encephalitis. Now, are we talking about autoimmune encephalitis, or are we talking about acute ischemic stroke? We're talking about acute ischemic stroke, excluded, right? So you're gonna talk about, you can say reason that, um, you can add a reason that talks about acute ischemic stroke. Okay. Sorry, not doesn't talk about acute ischemic stroke. Second, this one, minocycline in stroke study at memonidines. So we have used minocycline with acute strokes, right? So again, if they have talk about so they have talk about hemorrhagic stroke and ischemic stroke as well. So maybe we can include it for now, and then we will see it in secondary screening if we want to include it, right? Rationale and study designed to assess the efficacy and safety of minocycline patient with acute ischemic stroke emphasis. Now we just have to check this was the randomized placebo controlled trial. And yes, we are talking about the randomized controlled trial as well. It just talk about the minocycline. It talks about the acute ischemic stroke as well. For this article will be included, right? So that's how you will be keep on including the articles with the blind mode on. What does the blind mode on means? Let's suppose if two people are doing the screening, and whatever they decide, they won't know what the other person has decided, right? That's how the blind mode is on. That's how you basically do it. So this is your primary screening, where you just include and you just create two groups, either included and excluded, because you can see here it says I have included two articles and I have excluded 17 articles, and then 13 of them, they are yet to be undecided, have yet to be decided, right? Now, um, what you're going to be doing in your secondary screening, you are going to label every article. Maybe the two of them that I just included, they might be review articles, who knows? So they are going to get excluded in the full text screening, which is going to be your secondary screening. All right. So again, in your secondary screening, what you basically do it, you are gonna again include sorry, include the RCTs, right, which talk about the minocycline and acute ischemic stroke, but exclude all the reviews, case reports, the one with the wrong population. Maybe they have talked about hemorrhagic stroke, they have the wrong intervention, they haven't talked about the minocycline, and then they have the wrong outcomes, right? Maybe they haven't talked about the NIHS and everything. So what you're gonna do in this case, now we are gonna, move to the full text screening. So let's suppose we have done this whole thing, right? And then we move towards the full text screening. So you're gonna click on add articles, and then you have to include the included articles, right? And then you're gonna add And once they are basically here, you can see that how it makes very easy for you, right? So you are gonna now click on this open URL. So it's gonna take you to Cochrane Library. Same thing we are gonna do for this one as well. Let's just see which one of them is according to our inclusion criteria. Personally, I like Rayyan a lot because if you are using the EndNote, it becomes um, a lot difficult for you. Now you can see minocycline in stroke add memonides, and Cochrane is not the database where you're gonna find the full text paper. So you can see that they have provided some links here. So when you click on this, it's gonna take you to the clinical trials, and these are the clinical trials. So yes, this paper definitely is gonna be included, right? So you are gonna be on the right side. You can see that they have the contacts and location, and then you have the study plan, eligibility criteria, collaborators and everything. So, you will be reading this. You can see that they have used the modified ranking scale, and this is one of the on outcome as well. And then you can see that they have used NIHSS as well. So in the secondary screening, you will be reading this from here all the way, till the trial ends, right? You're gonna be reading all of it. And then if it is according to your, if they have talk about your outcomes, then these outcomes that I just defined here, these outcomes, right? So if they have talk about these outcomes, you're gonna include it. And how you're gonna be including it? So you're gonna go back. Let's suppose we are talking about this article, right? So you're gonna click on include. So it says is I have included, and then you have to download this paper from here, and maybe put attach the PDF here as well. So when you will be doing the extraction, you will be doing the analysis and extraction. So you will have already the PDF available here. Let's just see the other one that we saw. It says rational and study designed to assess the efficacy and safety of minocycline in patients with moderate to severe acute ischemic stroke. Now, it doesn't look like it is a RCT, but let's just find out through the PubMed. So we're gonna the PubMed, right? And but it says that this is an emphasis study is a multi-standard randomized double-blind placebo-controlled trial. Yep. So it talks about minocycline as well and acute ischemic stroke as well. Now you're gonna go to the PMD full text article. So now let's just see what are the outcomes they have discussed. Okay. So they have this population inclusion exclusion criteria as well. So I think this was the blinding and intervention and follow-up and data collection. Right, so this is the base and characteristic table. They have some efficacy outcomes and safety outcomes, which is again an RK. So this paper will be included. This was a RCT, so this is gonna be included as well, right? So that's how you're gonna do the secondary screening after the primary screening, right? So so what are the steps that we're gonna quickly follow is basically first of all you have to review your data. You have to resolve all the duplicates, right? Once you have resolved the duplicates, you're gonna come into the screening part. Here in the screening part, always exclude the articles with the keywords. So you're gonna exclude all the articles. You will be left with the undecided articles. And when you are talking about the undecided articles, read their title, read the abstract, and then according to that, you can choose include, maybe, or exclude. Again, you don't have to choose right here, like if you want to include and exclude. If you are confused about it, you can click on maybe as well, right? And then later on, it will get uh, the conflict will be resolved by a third mentee or your mentor, and then you are gonna eventually do this screening. But for the screening, you always have to go to the full text paper. So in this case, let's suppose if you don't have the full text paper, right? Let's suppose we can just assume that we don't have the full text article for this paper. So what you're gonna do is there is we have certain you can say websites. They have open they have the papers present there. So what you do is you just, for example, let's suppose I am gonna copy the URL and paste the URL here, and let's see. Okay, so it doesn't have this paper. So let's suppose, but we had this paper already on a clinical trials, right? So let's suppose if you're not doing, if you don't find the full length article anywhere, just come here in the Ski Hub and just put the URL, and it's going to give you the full length article. This is just an easy way to get, instead of just going to the institutional logins and asking someone else to find it for you, who have the access to the journal. So you can say a kind of an illegal way to find the full text articles here as well, right? So this was about the screening, and again, this was a demo screening. This is not the actual one. Yours one is gonna look like exactly like this, uh but is gonna have around 1600 articles. And how it's gonna have 1600 articles is based on this. Yeah, based on the this that we just made. So okay, so we have talked about the ray, and now we're going to talk about the Prisma. So Prisma is something that you fill, that it is basically a flow chart. And I think I have sent the Prisma to you guys as well, right? You can check your Instagram, sorry, your WhatsApp group. I have sent the I have sent the Prisma there, which is not filled. So you have to fill this. This is on a Word document. You just have to fill this, and it's very easy to fill. For example, I'm gonna give you guys access to this sheet right here as well, right? So here we have, kind of mentioned 147 and 287 as well. So what you're gonna do is our first database is the PubMed. So you're gonna come here and you're gonna write PubMed here. So PubMed, and how many articles we had from the PubMed was 147, right? This is the 147. Second one is Scopus. So here we're gonna write Scopus, and articles retrieved were 287. Now same it is gonna go for Web of Science as well. You have 249 from Web of Science. Let me just quickly add. I'm just gonna add Web of Science because we are running out of time. So Web of Science has around 249, right? 49, and then you have for the MBase as well, which is 1080. Okay. So after you have filled this section, you have this records removed before screening, right? Again, the first thing was to remove the duplicates, right? So let's suppose while we were doing this, our duplicates were removed were two, right? So of course these gonna add up to a different number. I think these were around 1600. So duplicates record removed, these were two, right? And records marked as ineligible, you have automation tools from the other reasons. You have to the one that you are gonna basically exclude. So again, after you do the primary screening, right? For the primary screening, you are add the number here, whatever the articles you're gonna include. For example, in our case, on the screening, we're just taking the hypothetical situation. So in our case, let's suppose we excluded 17 and we included, let's suppose, 2. Of course, the number doesn't add up. So record screen were, wait, okay, sorry. So record screen total were, here were 32, right? And record excluded were 17. And sort for retrieval for, let's suppose, these were 2. And then from these two, let's suppose you don't include, so we're gonna fill it here and then we're gonna fill it out. So you don't have to worry, we're gonna fill it out. I'm just showing you how we basically fill it out. So it's very easy. You just have to fill it out on the every step that you are basically doing. The first step today was, the PubMed Scopus, Web of Science. These are the MBAs. So once every one of you who will be doing the screening, all of you are gonna be doing the screening. So you will be filling this part and record screen after the duplication removal here, and how many excluded this is the primary section one, and this is secondary section one, right? So you have to, fill it that way. Everybody is provided with the blank, um, the Prisma chart, right? So you have to fill it that way. Now let me quickly check if we missed any section. Mm. So okay. Just be clear on your outcomes, right? So your outcomes are NIHSS, MRS, Barzil Index, recurrent stroke mortality, adverse events, and MI. So you just have to keep in view them while you're doing the secondary screening, and the primary screening. Just go by the, title and the abstract. And then the secondary screening, if even you, mistakenly added a different one, this will get excluded in the secondary screening, right? So that's all about the screening. Now, if anybody has any question.
I have a question. Would you like us to upload all the articles to Rayyan by ourselves, or are you going to add us to a Rayyan that you created with all the articles there and then divide
Yes,
it?
yes. The articles are already uploaded, so I have your emails as well after the lectures end. So we are gonna add you there.
Okay.
And yes, and then your other mentor is gonna divide the articles among you. I think I was having a discussion with him, so he said everybody is gonna have around 200 to 400 articles, because as you just saw that once we applied the filter, the exclusion keywords, the articles dramatically, the number dramatically were down. So it's gonna be easier for you, right? So just stick to your inclusion exclusion criteria and it will be easy for you. And anybody has another question? Okay, so that was about it. And because mm, our lecture got delayed a bit, but it like depends on you guys how quickly you can do the screening article and like the screening, the primary and secondary, and then we can finally jump on to the I think that's the data extraction part. Yeah. So the next lecture is either I'm gonna be same day next week on Wednesday, or it is going to be on the next weekend, right? So before that, the articles will be divided among you, and everybody is required to get done with their task in a week. So we can then move forward with the data extraction. All right. Now, if anybody has any questions, you can just tag me in the group, and I'll be happy to assist you with that. I'm going to send you the inclusion exclusion criteria with our outcomes as well, and that will be it. So good luck everyone and have a good day.